Welcome to Life Extension Live. I'm Dr. Mike. I'm here with Dr. Crystal Gossert. And what do you guys think? Welcome to our new studio for Life Extension Live. Welcome into our living room.
I know.
Yes.
It's so cozy, Dr. Mike.
Grab a cup of coffee, some hot tea or iced tea, whatever you like, and come join us as we have all kinds of conversations about health,
That's right.
wellness. And so we're happy that you're joining us today. Very important show. Now, here's the thing. You might think this show is about diabetes or for diabetics because we're talking about sugar level. Don't keep watching, because it turns out, regardless of whether you're a diabetic, regardless of whether you are pre-diabetic, everyone really needs to watch their blood sugar levels because we've learned something new. Dr. Crystal, tell us what we now know.
Yes, blood sugar over 85 can increase your risk for cardiovascular disease, cardiovascular death. And here's the thing, Dr. Mike. Diabetes is diagnosed when your blood sugar is 126. Pre-diabetes around 100.
100, yeah.
If your blood sugar is 85, your doctor's not going to say anything. He's going to say, all right.
I practiced for years. I would have never said any. Yeah, I would have celebrated 85. Nothing to worry about.
Celebrate 85, 90, 95. Your doctor is still celebrating. You are creeping up. But I mean, the cardiovascular risk is about 40% increase of cardiovascular death
at 85 or higher.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm higher than 85. I'm not. I know. I'm a little worried about that. But here's the thing. Today's show is gonna now that we scared you. You're watching. We got your attention. Hang in there because we have some really good steps that you can follow, right, to manage on this. So on today's show, here's what we're going to cover. Number one, we're going to talk about our country's, what are we calling it? The Diabetic Report card.
Our report card, yes.
Report card. We're then going to go into some lifestyle hacks that are embedded into these 4 steps to support healthy blood sugar levels. So what we want to do is first talk a little bit more about the statistics. And again, we're doing this because we're trying to catch your attention, right? So we're pulling all this information, the report card, right? Mm-hmm. We're pulling it from a 2022 report from the National Diabetes Statistic Report. Tell us about what they found.
Yes, and they found that Americans, unfortunately, are failing. This is not the kind of report card that you want to bring home.
This is the one where you hide it from your parents.
Yes, this is the one that you hide. You'll see when you compare the number of diabetics and pre-diabetics, more than 130 million adults have diabetes or pre-diabetes. And, you know, what's really sad is 1 in 3 adults have pre-diabetes, but 8 out of 10 of those people, they don't even know it, Dr. Mike.
Yeah, it's almost like another silent killer, right? Where you have blood pressure is that traditional silent killer. A lot of people not realize, especially with these new numbers that we have learned, millions of people walking around with blood sugar levels that are putting them at risk. As a matter of fact, if the trends continue, the way we're eating, our lifestyle, or lack of exercise, processed foods, if that continues, it's estimated that 1 in 3 Americans will have diabetes.
And the sad part is diabetes takes about 10 years off your life expectancy.
Yeah, so serious stuff.
Yes.
So again, we're not trying to scare you. We're trying to capture your attention.
Hopefully I don't know. We did. Maybe we should scare them, Dr.
I don't know. I think we know. Okay, scare you. Okay, good. Now you're ready to listen.
We want to encourage them, right?
There you go. That's the better word.
Now we have our feed here, so feel free to send us a chat, send questions here.
Yeah.
And we'll take a look at those periodically to see if there are any questions coming in.
So let's start with the 4 steps.
Yes.
All right. Step number 1 right away. Now, okay, this sounds simple, but we're not doing it. Limit the sugar from your diet. Now, yes, you've heard this before. Eat less, watch your sugar, but we need a little help with this step right now. Here's your life hack. We need to be label readers. You need to look on labels, right?
It's so simple. And when we're talking about blood sugar, you want to look for added sugar. It
thing.
has its own line on the label now.
It's new on the labels, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so you'll see the total sugars number, and then underneath you'll see the added sugars number. That is the number that you want to watch.
Yeah, and I know it's, people have different ideas of what your max is, right? Like how many added sugars in grams can you actually do a day? I don't want to get into that because it's kind of all over the place. At the end of the day, do you agree with me that just keep it as low as possible?
Exactly, as low as possible. Something else that you may want to look at is the ratio of the carbs to the fiber.
Yeah, you like this, don't you?
I love
Dr.
this.
Crystal, she loves her fiber. I think about every show we talk about fiber, and we should.
We should, Dr. Mike. Well, fiber is so great for weight management, blood glucose management, immune health. I could go on and on about fiber. But when you're looking at your labels, you're looking at the added sugar. Ideally, there should be no added sugars. You want all of those sugars to be occurring naturally from that food. But when you kind of compare, the next step is to compare those carbs to the fibers, and that should be a ratio of about 5 to 1.
Yeah, that's good. So that's good information, and then it's not hard to calculate. You can quickly, if you want a percent, it's about 25%, right? So
about 25%.
Look at your total carbs, and you want the fiber content, 25% or so. Another way is just looking at net carbs, right? Where you just take total carbs minus your fibers. That leaves you the net carbs. That's the number of carbs that are going to influence sugar and insulin. We want to keep those as low as possible. So you can look at a ratio. I like the ratio. I think it gives a little more information, but you can also just calculate net carbs. Hidden sources.
Yes.
It's not as simple as sometimes just looking at a label. You got to know some ingredients too.
Right. And the foods that will include more of those added sugars. So we're talking condiments. Barbecue sauce.
Oh, no.
And I am the proclaimed condiment queen. So sometimes this is one of those times where, you're preaching to yourself. Barbecue sauce, ketchup.
Ketchup,
I like ketchup too. Also, pasta sauces, like your spaghetti sauce, marinara sauces. Of course, your favorite yogurt that you like.
Yeah, boy, load it, right?
The milk alternatives. If that milk alternative, typically, if it's flavored, so if you like almond milk, if you don't buy just the plain unsweetened almond milk, there are added sugars in that almond milk.
Barbecue sauce is the one that gets me. So watching, me,
peanut butter,
me, the Food Channel, all that kind of stuff. Watching some restaurant, I don't remember what it was, what show, making barbecue sauce, right? The amount of sugar that guy put in that sauce was mind blowing, right? So you got to watch those condiments. Healthy bars, kind of sometimes they're loaded. Other things you have here: oatmeal packets.
Oh,
dried fruit.
And that one drives me insane. Hopefully it's something that you've picked up on, because most of the fruit will have sugar added to it. Like it's almost impossible to find dried fruit without them adding sugar to make that fruit sweeter.
Tastes better too. And then just the natural sugars concentrate too.
Yes.
Because you're removing the water. So everything becomes concentrated. You have down, and I agree with all this, choose the whole grains, not the whole wheat.
Right.
People see whole wheat and they think that's good. No, that has a lot of sugar too. Go with the brown rices, the brown pastas, alternative pastas, what have you. So as far as supplements go, when it comes to really helping to limit sugar intake, what we need to do is we need to boost a certain neurotransmitter called serotonin. Now, you may know serotonin as the feel-good neurotransmitter.
Yes, makes you happy.
Today's show, it's the not eat a bunch of sugar at 3 o'clock because you're stressed out neurotransmitter.
I know.
Right, that's serotonin. Tryptophan, it's a precursor, right?
Tryptophan is a precursor. It's an amino acid. And one that you always talk about, saffron.
I've been talking, it's one of my favorites. Research a few years ago clearly showed that it decreased sugar cravings in the afternoon.
Now that is the saffron extract.
Right,
You should
right.
highlight that.
Yeah, I mean, cooking with saffron, it's expensive, right?
No.
So we're talking about supplements here. The amount of saffron that you would have to use to help with this, you would spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
So do the supplement form. It's much better. So that's step number 1, limit sugar from your diet. Step number 2, here it is, decrease sugar absorption into your body. What we're talking about is the sugar that does come into your gut system, your intestines, right? Because you ate something.
Yes.
What we want to do is limit what you're eating, but at the same time, let's limit how much of that sugar actually gets into your bloodstream.
Right.
Right? Life hack for this, I love this. Modify the food order that you're eating. Let me explain that. So take a standard American dinner.
Mhm.
Meat and potato.
Why
Right?
did you meat and
I don't know, meat
potato?
and
Why did you
potato.
have to growl?
I don't know. That was weird. But meat and potatoes. It turns out you should eat the meat first.
Yes.
Tell us what we found.
We're seeing in research that it started out with a pilot study with diabetics, but in some more research review articles, they are finding that the food order, and it's the meat and the fatty foods as well.
Eat those
Both
first.
of those, eat both of those first, and you will have less of a glycemic response with that meal.
Yeah.
And actually, it's pretty impressive when you look at some of the improvements in the glycemic response. But Dr. Mike, this just gave me another reason to order appetizers.
Get and make them protein, right?
Right.
Good protein, yeah. I like the idea of the meat and the fat first because, quite honestly, that's what I crave most.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with that order.
And maybe I know a part of it when you look at the physiology, what's going on, it's delaying the gastric emptying. But I kind of feel like maybe you are a little more full.
I think
And
that's a
so
lot
you
to
just
do
don't
with it.
eat as much of that carb that may be on your plate.
Protein is filling.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you're eating the protein first, you get a little full faster. You're not going to go crazy with the mashed potatoes, right? Okay, so that is our lifestyle hack. Now, we do have some supplements here to talk about, right? The first one that I want you to talk about, because I know you can't wait, is fiber again. Here we go, fiber, Dr. Crystal Fiber. But this is specifically soluble fiber. So tell us the difference.
Yeah, so soluble fiber is the type of fiber that it kind of forms into a gel. So it absorbs in water and forms a gel. So it slows everything down.
Right.
That glucose is now able to go into the body slower, and your body can burn some of that glucose slowly. So you don't have such a quick spike in blood sugar levels.
General concept in human medicine, human physiology, whatever. If you give the body time to respond, it does better. The body doesn't like quick things. So quick sugar spike is going to cause problems for you. But if you slow down absorption, you use soluble fibers to slow down the sugar coming into your bloodstream, your body manages those sugars better as they do enter.
Yes.
Right?
That's
I
right.
think, a good way to think about it. Now, here's one. I don't know. Most people probably don't know this. Seaweed.
Brown seaweed.
Specifically brown seaweed, right?
Yes.
Brown seaweed. We don't eat a lot of seaweed in this country, but we're really talking about supplement form. So don't worry. You don't need to go out and eat a bunch of brown seaweed. Tell us about supplemental form of brown seaweed.
Supplemental brown seaweed helps to block enzymes that will break down carbs and turn those carbs into sugars. So we know carbs, all they are, the carbohydrates, they are sugar linked together.
Yeah.
Those individuals, a chain of sugars will make your carbohydrates. And so we need enzymes to kind of chop up that chain, and
that releases the sugar.
Exactly.
Right. But the brown seaweed
slows that down. It blocks some of those enzymes from breaking up those carbs into those individual simple sugars, which will quickly go into the bloodstream.
And that's the key thing. Again, it goes back to the fact that you're slowing this whole process down, right? Step number 1 was just limiting eating sugar. Now we're slowing the sugar kind of absorption process down, allowing your body to manage it better.
Yes.
That's a good way to think about it.
It's slowing down that absorption.
As a matter of fact, brown seaweed, you have a stat right here, Dr. Crystal. In a study, 23 healthy people, 500 milligrams of brown sugar caused a 48.3% decrease in sugar spikes after they ate.
That's
That's
impressive.
huge. That's almost a cut in half.
That is
That's
very
what
impressive.
brown seaweed
And that
can do
was
for you.
with about 500 milligrams,
Yeah.
but you see the dosing range from about 3 to 500 milligrams of the brown seaweed.
Right. Okay. Step number 3. All right. You're writing all this down, right? Taking some notes. Robson, where's Robson? By the way, Robson is running all the production out there. We have Hannah, who's running all the videos. Nice to see you. You guys hopefully are taking some notes. So step number 3 is we want to get the sugar. So the sugar that actually gets into your bloodstream, right?
Right.
We want to actually get it in the cell. It belongs in the cell. That's where it's going to cause the least damage, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So we want the sugar inside the cell. And this relates to the hormone insulin. You'll hear your doctors, nutritionists, we talk about insulin sensitivity. We want your insulin to be sensitive.
Right. Well, we want your cells to be sensitive to respond to that signal that the insulin is sending.
So tell us, the best things here to improve that response. So your cell responds to insulin, pulls the sugar in. We have some supplement choices. Let's start with cinnamon.
I love cinnamon, but it's not your regular cinnamon, Dr. Mike. You know, it's the water soluble cinnamon extract. Yeah. So a part of that cinnamon stick, the water soluble piece, helps to increase those transporters that respond to the insulin in that cell. And those transporters come up and they let the glucose into the cell. They grab it, get it out of the bloodstream and into the cell where it belongs.
Yeah, you know, so a lot of people like to use cinnamon in baking for the most part, but one of my favorites is like the mole. They use a lot of cinnamon in those and stuff. And that's great. But as you were saying, you know, natural cinnamon comes mixed with oil and water. The oils in cinnamon kind of knock out the water stuff a little bit. So you really want to do a water-based cinnamon supplement for these. Number 2, chromium.
Another one.
Yeah, another great one. It's a mineral. As a matter of fact, chromium is so good at doing this, at helping to get the sugar in the cell. The FDA, usually they don't like supplements too much.
I know.
They actually have on their website that chromium has been shown, with a lot of disclaimers, to lower blood sugar levels.
Yes, and chromium is working similar to the cinnamon. It's helping with that signaling that happens once that insulin binds to its docking station on the cell to tell that cell, hey, sugar's here, bring those transporters up, bring them on in. And that signaling that happens to kind of get those transporters up there, that's where chromium is helping with.
Yeah, very good. So that's cinnamon and chromium. Last one, a mineral most people in this country are not getting enough of. That's been shown by our own government, right? And that's magnesium. Tell us how that's working.
Magnesium, and by the way, just a stat, over 70% of Americans are deficient in magnesium.
I believe it.
So you're wondering why your blood sugar is out of range. Maybe something as simple as magnesium is what you need. Magnesium actually helps with insulin secretion. So that's great for someone who's been diabetic for a while. We know when you're pre-diabetic or initially diagnosed with diabetes, it's usually not an insulin problem.
Yeah.
Your doctor's not going to prescribe insulin to you right away. It's really more about that insulin sensitivity, helping to get the sugar into the cell. But you know, there are times if you've been diabetic for a while, then you kind of need a little insulin support, a little support.
Yeah. And that's what we're getting with magnesium. So
now we have a comment there, Jeff.
Oh, Jeff Ray.
Hi, Jeff Ray. He says sugar is poison.
Simply don't eat it.
Jeff, tell it like it is.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Jeff, we appreciate that, and we understand where you're coming from. But sugar is a part of our life. It's not going to go away. It's just, I think, really about understanding more of the harm if it's in excess. And doing some of the things like we're talking about today. Step number 1, limit your sugar, right? We're not saying avoid it at all costs. That's almost really impossible today's world.
But Jeff is on to something because he's talking about the fructose and the sugar that's coming from natural sources, like what you would find in an apple. There are phytonutrients in that apple. There's fiber in that apple. So you're not getting just pure sugar.
Yeah.
And I think that's a part of the problem is that we are just getting inundated with tons of just sugar.
Yeah, excess sugar
Mhm.
overall. So we appreciate that. And again, we're providing you some steps to help to control that
Yeah.
as best you can. Step number 1 was limit. Step number 2 was slow down that absorption. Let your body respond. Give your body a chance
Mhm.
to respond. And we gave you some suggestions there. And of course, step 3 was then getting that sugar into the cell, helping to improve insulin sensitivity. And step number 4 makes sense, right? Burn more of it for energy. Because at the end of the day, the sugar in your body is really only going to do 3 things. You're going to burn it, you're going to store it as something called glycogen, but that's very limited. Most of it is going to become fat, body fat.
Yes.
So when you're looking at yourself and you're like, woo, those COVID years, I need to I ate a little too much. I need to do that. That fat is really mostly stored sugar.
Yes, that's very true, Dr. Mike. So what's our life hack?
All right, life hack. I love this one because if you don't like exercising, this is great for you, right? Go for a short walk after meals. This is really impressive. This is based on research now too, right? A short walk after you eat maybe 1 or 2 of your heaviest meals. Tell us about that.
Most of the physical activity suggestions suggest about 30 minutes of physical activity a day. And most people are like, oh, 30
and that's still
minutes.
good. That's still
good.
We're not saying don't do that.
But for glucose management, what research found is just a 10-minute walk after each meal. Just get up for 10 minutes, take a walk around the block, take the dog out after meals. And you found that the researchers found better glucose control in the people who took the short intermittent walks versus the long 30-minute.
The long 30, yeah. As a matter of fact, blood sugar lowered by 22% more when they took that short walk versus that 30-minute walk in the middle of the day or something like that.
That's a cool, that's easy to do.
Come on. You eat your meat, eat your meat, then eat your potato, right? Because that's the order.
Yes.
And then go for a 10-minute walk and you're going to burn more of that sugar.
Yes.
That's great.
I think it's fantastic. It was music to my ears. So now after every meal, I'm like, come on, kids.
Let's go.
Let's get the dog.
Yeah. Go for a little stroll. Yeah. We're not talking about anything major. Number 2, there's an enzyme inside your cells, right? That is called AMPK. We've talked about this before in many of our energy shows and stuff. AMPK is kind of like your master energy switch in a way, right? And you want it on. And as we get older, this enzyme system kind of drops. It's sluggish. We got to turn it back on. And it just helps the cell manage the sugar better, burn the sugar more, even burn fats more, by the way. So we want to activate AMPK. What the big supplement, right, that we talk about is the gynostemma.
Yes, gynostemma pentaphyllum. That's a big word to say, but it's an herb. It's in the cucumber family. I always say that because people like to relate to something. They can associate it to something, but it can help to activate that energy sensor. I call it the metabolic sensor in the cell to tell the body, hey, let's burn this glucose versus storing it as fat.
You call it a sensor? Are you just saying that because I call it a switch?
Well,
she does that sometimes. She likes her analogies so much better. Anyway, switch, sensor, they get it, right?
Yes.
Activate AMPK.
You just want it activated. That's all that matters.
Yeah. And exercise, supplementation with gynostemma can help all of that. Guess who's back for this? Burn sugar, you need
magnesium. I get some, between fiber and magnesium, I don't know which one I get more excited.
Not true. Not true. Every time we talk about a nutrient, your standard response is, oh, that's my favorite. I love it.
Well, there's so many wonderful gifts that nature has given us to help us with almost anything, Dr. Mike.
Listen, wonderful point. Most of the stuff we find in nature that we put into supplements, they help with sugar, they help with fat, they help with energy, they help with it's amazing that everything that we talk about is provided in some form or another, right?
Right.
So magnesium.
Magnesium. And I guess I'm so excited. I learned something new when I was kind of researching for this topic, that magnesium is found inside of your cell, inside of the powerhouse of the cell, the mitochondria.
Right. Yep.
That is where energy production is made. And magnesium is there helping with that process.
Helping along. So what an important role. What's the standard, like 350 reactions in your body or something like that? So magnesium, blood pressure, heart, we're learning now sugar, energy, man. I mean, magnesium is a key mineral, and you find it in leafy greens for the most part. And guess what? We're not eating leafy greens.
No.
So that goes back to your fact that most people every day are not getting near enough magnesium. So increase those magnesium-rich foods. It's basically plants.
Nuts
and seeds,
green leafy vegetables.
Yeah, and then consider supplementation. I take magnesium. I get it out of my multi, but I also do a standalone.
Oh.
So my total magnesium is 500 a day.
I'm at up to 1,000. Dr. Mike, he's going to tease me when this is over. That's okay. I'm an overachiever.
That's okay. We love that. So great information today. At the end of the day, regardless of whether you're diabetic or not, prediabetes, sugar levels are important for all of us to keep an eye on, which, by the way, you should get blood tested every year at least, right? Know your baseline blood sugar levels. We need to, number one, limit. We need to, number two, decrease absorption of it. Number three, we need to get it in the cells.
Into the cell.
And number four, we need to burn it. There you go.
Yeah.
You want to tell them about the protocol?
Yes, we do have a diabetes protocol, lifeextension.com/diabetes. And this protocol outlines everything that we talked about and more. It goes through even medication suggestions. What are the best medications? What are novel therapies, novel ways, conventional options, as well as nutritional options to help you manage your blood sugar.
Yeah. And Jeff is asking, where do we get all this information? We can share the studies. Many of these are observational. Some of them were actual clinical studies, Jeff, with placebo controls. We have all that. We reference everything.
Yes, we'll make sure we give it to our social media team and have them post the studies in the chat.
Yep.
We'll be happy to do that.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining us in our new studio. Don't forget, we go live every Wednesday at 3 o'clock. Show up next Wednesday. Another new show, right?
Yes.
All right. I'm Dr. Mike. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.